Charles, I've gotten my PMP certificate, which means that technically speaking, I'm more valuable. But why do I feel like I'm still potentially even less promotable, if that makes any sense?
Hmm. Yeah. So and that's the hidden trap of any certification, any industry. You know what I mean? You can get labeled, you can get pigeonholed, right? Even actors, right? They play a particular character and they just get recast as that same character over and over and over and over. They never really are given an opportunity to show the full breadth of their skill because, oh, well, you're the evil bad guy. You're the henchman. You're the mad scientist, whatever. And that's it. They get kind of labeled that way and
Hmm.
pigeonholed that way. Certifications in any industry have the same potential effect. Okay. So the initial, you get a step change. You earn your PMP, man, your employer really ought to acknowledge and reward that because arguably you are more effective as that execution expert, right? A PMP certification, a welding certification, whatever. Those certifications say, hey, I put in the extra effort, the extra time, and I've demonstrated proficiency as something. Absolutely, that makes you more valuable. But the trap is it also makes you really, really, really good at this one thing.
Right.
And if you allow the organization, your manager, your leader, your whatever, to only think of you as that one thing, you're going to be typecast and you're going to be that one thing.
So, how do I make sure that I don't get labeled or stuck into that one fixed position of being very good at this one thing and instead allow myself to become a leader inside my
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah. The most significant difference between any discipline or category expert, right? I mean, we're talking about project managers, definitely. Earning that certification, again, it makes you this execution expert. But execution experts aren't the leaders. And the difference between those two is execution happens after the decision, right? The organization, the executive management, whatever strategy is set, decisions are made, and then that decision flows down to, in this case, the PMP. Hey, go execute this. We made the decision without you, but that's okay because you're just execution. We're decision makers. Ooh, there it is. There's the trap. If you're not part of those decision making conversations, then you are typecast as execution only. This person doesn't have anything really to add to the conversation. They don't have anything to contribute to the decision making, to the strategy, to the higher level conversation. They're just a blunt instrument that we use to do this specific task.
What if
If
they
your
only
impression, go
I
ahead.
was going to ask you, what if they only call me for those confirmation meetings where they let me know and they
Yep.
don't actually
Yep.
include me inside the conversation?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I do with my project managers, right? So first, the first step is awareness, right? I sit them down. Is this happening? Do you recognize this? They have their own frustrations. Maybe they don't articulate it that way, right? Maybe they say, hey, when am I eligible for another promotion? Right? They ask permission, they ask approval. Those are all signs that I'm kind of dependent on someone else to determine my career path and my succession and my growth. Okay, whoa, wait a minute. Firstly, there's this level of ownership and intentionality. I'm not a super genius, but I absolutely had a plan. My PMP cert was part of that plan. And what my PMP certification did for me was it got me in the room. Okay. It was labeled differently. When I achieved my PMP and earned my PMP cert, what that did was that changed my label and my designation from project manager to senior certified project manager. Okay. Organizationally, that was specific to my organization at the time, but organizationally, that changed my title. And what that did was that gave me the kind of backstage pass to be in those rooms where decisions were being made. Okay. That's what that PMP gets you. It should. It should get you a pass into those rooms where the decisions are being made. Okay. Now, how do you leverage that? And how you leverage that is learning how to ask the right questions, contribute, having the right voice, not just speaking up because you're insecure or nervous, but actually knowing what your worth is to the organization and how you contribute to better decision making. That's the key. That's what differentiates you from that blunt execution instrument into, hey, this person's got some leadership potential. I'm seeing a lot of great behaviors. I see a lot of strategic thinking in that person. So the PMP is your pass to get into the room, but then you have a lot of work to do when you're in that room. It starts with that awareness and that intentionality.
Speaking of awareness, are there any signals that I should be looking out for in terms of, okay, they might be hinting that I'm worthy of a promotion?
Oh yeah, that feedback is almost instantaneous. What it might not be initially is it might not be public. Okay.
Oh,
If you're in the room, you add some kind of contribution, you add some kind of an insight, you step up and say, hey, I'm going to take on that action. I'm going to take on that question. I'm going to try and solve that problem for us. I'm going to try to mitigate the risk around that because I'm going to do some extra work on that. And I don't want to imply that success equals just doing extra work. No, again, that's a blunt instrument kind of perspective. But what it is being intentional again with what you're doing and how you're doing it. So that praise and that recognition might not come publicly at first. Okay, good, you've got it, go do it. But then what happens is it's those little communications, those little conversations outside of the room where people, you can tell they're starting to treat you a little bit differently. Really strong signals are when you start getting kind of copied on emails and you look at the distribution of that email, it's like, hey, this isn't the full project team. This is the executive team. They're including me in those communications. They're inviting me to those meetings. They're asking for my input. Okay. The difference between execution and leadership is where's the decision point and where are you? Or if you're on the downstream side of decisions, your execution. If you're on the upstream side of decisions, your leadership. So what you want to do is demonstrate that you have value to add before the decision is made. That automatically makes you leadership material because the difference between leadership and execution is decision making.
if I have a feeling that I'm already at the point where I feel comfortable asking to be included in those emails, I feel comfortable asking to be included in those conversations, is it okay for me to go to my boss and just outright ask them, hey, I want and I feel I feel like I'm worthy of being included in these meetings and these conversations, or should I wait for those signals that you've been talking about?
Yeah. So I would say every, excuse me, every situation is a little bit different, but it could be a combination of either. And you got to kind of learn to read the room. That's part of it. But I will say that so my emotional needs profile kind of predisposes me to this perspective. So this isn't right for everybody, but here's my example. I am off the scale high on contribution, right? Within emotional needs profile. I want to give, and do, and I want to be part of a team. That's just how I'm wired. So some of the signals that I gave to, and we're going to, please bring me back to this idea of my manager
Mm-hmm.
versus my mentor.
Gotcha.
So I go to my manager with an execution request. Hey, Charles, here you go, man. Here's your next project. Go ahead and knock this out. And I sit down and I look at that and I have questions and I have concerns. Hey, you guys made some decisions that significantly impact how I'm going to be able to execute this or where or when or whatever those impacts are. Okay. So my feedback is actually to go to that manager or more importantly, that mentor and say, hey, I kind of got handed this and I have questions about this. I have some pretty significant value to add on how we execute this, how this should be structured, what questions we ask of the subcontractor or of the customer, whatever the case may be. That is a demonstration of pre-decision thinking. I do that very well. And you absolutely, that is a learned skill. So if you're not in the room, you can start doing this right now today by saying, What kind of bag of crap have I been handed? What would have made a difference? What would have made this better for us? Not just me, not like making my life easier, but for the organization. What would have improved margin? What would have reduced risk if we had only asked this, or if we had only asked for this? Bring that to a trusted mentor or manager and say, man, I think we missed an opportunity. Had I been in the room, my subject matter expertise might have been able to do something about this. How do I get into those rooms? Yup. Yup. So there's a balance there, but asking, making your intention known through the value that you add is extremely powerful. There are some managers who are going to say no because they want, just send your questions to me and I'll ask them.
Mm-hmm.
There are twisted people in those positions. That's why the difference between a manager and a mentor,
Mm.
it really does matter, because some managers want that. I thought of this. I asked this. Okay. If that's your problem, if that's your obstacle, then you need a mentor, and we can navigate around that. But truthfully, what could I have done to help the organization? What could I have done before if you guys had only asked me? You start demonstrating that kind of stuff, you're going to be in every room.
I think that I'm walking away from this conversation, especially with the idea of using the right language as well. Like, you don't want to just talk about how good of an executioner you are, but how the actions that you're taking are leading to a direct impact in your organization, which is, I guess it's just a question of using more leadership language as well. Like, how is your work impacting? And not so
Yep.
much like, yeah, how are you a good executioner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you truly have the capacity and the willingness to take on the leadership challenge, the first thing you need to do is learn how to lead yourself.
Hmm.
And if you can, one of the reasons that my personal career was successful is because of the number of people who I've been able to teach this to and guide through. Right. So there's a lot of cliches out there. It's almost sickening these days, but the mark of a true leader is how many leaders that leader creates. Okay, that's the mark of a good leader. It's not a P&L metric. It's not any kind of those success metrics from that regard. This is philosophically, you make this choice, but my personal philosophy is the mark of a leader is how many leaders have you created. Okay, and that is absolutely how I lead and how I mentor and coach. So the number of project managers that I've been able to help follow the same path I did, and to change that language and to change their perspective and to see the value that they really have to add is really the differentiator to me. So whether you have that person, whether you have that mentor that can help you do that or not, you can absolutely learn these skills.
Perfect place to wrap it up. Appreciate you, man.
All right, cool.